December 9, 2021. Entertain a motion to approve those minutes. We don't have Brian here, so we're going to need people to jump in and move.
Motion to do that.
Thank you, Jay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Terry. And discussion? I can't see your hand, Harold, so you're going to have to chime in if you agree. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Hands are
Aye.
raised. Harold? Well, it's 4 and an abstention, so you didn't hear from him, so that passes. Number 2, approval of secretary's fees. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Thank you. Katie moved,
Jane
That's correct.
seconds.
and then Jane seconded. Is there discussion? Hearing none, we'll bring it to a vote. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand so I can see it on the screen.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. And we're pretty close. I think I can jump in to our regular hearing now. We'll be reconvening our working executive session after all the public hearings have been concluded, about public hearing matters. And at that time, we'll be voting, and I'll discuss that as part of my call for the public hearing. But just a reminder, number 10, 38, 3280, 3300 Post Road, and number 11, 599 Kings Highway West on our continued docket have been withdrawn. Number 7, 250 Pequot Avenue, our continued docket is continued. And number 9, 1088 Harbor Road on our regular docket is being continued to February. So I'll call to order Zoning Board of Appeals, Town of Fairfield, January 6, 2022. First, Happy New Year to everyone. Hope your holidays were great and no one had that little sickness that's going around that we've kind of heard about lately. So last year and a half, 2 years. But I hope everyone's healthy and safe and continues to be so in this year. Zoning Board of Appeals, when a matter is called, I'll be calling that. Please don't speak while I'm calling it. Anyone that's on, please make sure you're mute so we can understand and the call will be clear because we're recording this. After I'm finished, the applicant or his or her agent will present their case. We have your documents that have been sent to us electronically, so we've been able to review that. We've been able to inspect the property. If you want to share anything and you are capable of sharing it, either you can do that during your presentation. That's always helpful. But if you don't need to or don't want to or don't think you have to, don't worry. We have your application, and I think you can explain what you want quite well, but it's up to you as you're the applicant, and you could put forth what you would like us to see, hear, and understand. After the applicant's presentation, I will ask if there's anyone that's interested in that application to let me know that they're interested and to give me their name and to tell me whether they are in favor of it or opposed to it. I will then take them in a certain order. I take the people that are in favor of the application right after the applicant speaks. And then once they're done, if there are any, I will then take the people that are opposed to that application and allow them to speak. If there is any opposition to a particular application, I will then allow the applicant or his or her agent to address those comments that oppose the application. A word on that as to the applicant or their agent. Please comment at that point in a rebuttal format to the comments in opposition. It's not a time to restate your application and go over stuff you've already told us. It is a time to address anything that is said in opposition to the application which you've just presented to us. As I stated, we need to take our time on this and be very clear and not talk over one another because it's being recorded. That's required by our state law. Only one person can speak at a time. I want everyone to make sure you're on mute until I invite you to speak. I will invite the applicant first. And then, as I said, I will announce and allow anyone who has a comment to let me know. Just don't jump in and start giving me comments. Give me your name and whether you're in favor or against it, and I will take you in. If we're getting certain feedback or reverberation from your particular, we can tell because your box will highlight, and Mr. Decker may mute you. We're not being rude. He's just making sure that the record stays nice and clear and we can understand it. So Jody can take down what she needs to take down from the record. And if there are any issues about anything that is discussed and decided today, we will have a nice, clear, and clean record. So a judge or anyone that's reviewing it can understand it and it will make sense to them. If you are too far off the point as to the application, your comments in favor or opposition, or even the rebuttal, I reserve my right as a chairman to restrict your comments at any time. Remember, we're the Zoning Board of Appeals, and these relate to most of them. At certain times, sometimes we have different issues, but the majority and what's going forward today is an applicant asking for relief from a particular regulation or regulations of our zoning regs, of the town zoning regs. So that is the focus on that, and we're focusing on that particular property and possibly the neighborhood that surrounds it. Any applicants or interested people, after we're done, as I indicated, with public hearings, we will then reconvene our working session. At that time, we'll be voting on each application that went forward today. There are 5 members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have alternates that sit in as well, but for each matter, there'll be 5 members of the ZBA, whether it's the regular members or an alternate sitting in to help us out. They will be voting 5. You need a supermajority. You need at least 4 people to vote in favor of your application. If you're opposing it, you need at least 2 people to vote against that application to side with you. A simple majority of 3 to 2 in favor means the application is denied. The applicant needs at least 4 votes in favor of the request for it to be granted. And if a waiver is granted, it won't be valid until it's recorded on the land records. Therefore, in order for it to be recorded on the land records, the applicant must send or bring a check in the amount of $60 made payable to the town of Fairfield, and send that or bring it to the zoning office Wednesday or later after the meeting to allow for proper recording of the notice and filing. If you cannot stay and you're interested in a particular matter, you can contact zoning office tomorrow to find out what was discussed and how the vote went down on a particular matter. However, in my opinion, we open this up so the public can hear, and I think it's very important for the public to understand why the board votes, because there's some discussion. Sometimes there's not a lot of discussion, but if there is discussion, you'll find out why we're deciding on a particular way or in a particular way, and I think it might be helpful for you or anyone that's interested moving forward. Any waiver involving construction, whether it's a new dwelling, addition, or alteration, will require an as-built before a certificate of zoning compliance or a certificate of occupancy can be issued. I'll go into the call, and sorry, I'm going to be repeating myself from what I've already said about a couple of the matters, but I need to create a full record. Our continued docket number 10, 3280 and 3300 Post Road. That application has been withdrawn by the applicant. Number 11 on our continued docket, 599 Kings Highway West. That application has been also withdrawn by the applicant. Our continued docket number 7, 250 Pequot Avenue. That application has been continued at least to our next hearing in February, and possibly it might get continued to March. But anyone who's interested, you should just check the agenda once it is posted by the town on our website. First order of business that we have goes to our general docket, and that is number 1, 131 Ruane Street, map 180, parcel 66, petition of Scott L. and Jennifer L. Langlace for a variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.5, to increase lot coverage from 20%, currently 20.6%, proposing 21.8%, permission to construct a covered open front porch premises A zone. And who is presenting? Is this going to be the owner?
Yes, this is Jennifer Langlis. I'm one of the owners.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Langus.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. We're just seeking to add a front porch to our home on Upper Rain Street. Right now, we have a covered front porch over the existing front door, and we just want to extend it across the front of the house, just so that it conforms more with all of the other homes in Fairfield Center on Upper Rain Street. We're the only home on Upper Rain Street that does not have a front porch, and we kind of wanted it to conform a bit more and be able to enjoy the front porch as well. So adding that additional front porch area increases our lot coverage from the additional amount from 20.6 to 21.8%.
Thank you, Ms. Langus. Does
Thank you.
anyone have any questions for Ms. Langus? Harold, yeah, we need to make sure. I can't hear you. You're muted. Matt, can you unmute?
Request on, there he is.
Thank
Yep.
you. I unmuted.
You're all set. Go ahead, Harold.
Thank you. First of all, I'm kind of new to this. I'm an alternate, and I don't know if these questions necessarily are relevant or not, but I'd like to know what makes up the additional point, whatever it was, in the living space of the home on the property. Is it that the porch will be enclosed, or does the steps that are proposed to come in from the side now, is that what's increasing the size of the living space?
It is an open front porch. It is a single step up, and the way the topography goes, it may be 2 steps off to the side. There's an open covered porch over the front door already, and we're just going to extend the roof, literally 2 more windows over the front of the house. So it'll be an open front porch. So that increases the lot coverage by that little bit. So right now it exists 5 feet deep by 8 feet wide. It'll go to 6 feet deep so that we can get like a chair on there or something. It goes 6 feet deep across 26 in total instead of 8 in total.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, and just to point out, we did have an email and some signatures from the neighbors supporting the application as well, just to make sure, so you know that that's in there as well, Ms. Langus. Now, I'm going to open this up to see if there's anyone that wishes to speak to this application, 131 Ruane Street. Whether you're in favor or opposed to it, please give me your name and what your position is. Okay, I'm hearing no one that wants to come forward, which is usually a good sign, Ms. Langus. Since your neighbors had already signed your petition. We're going to be closing the hearing, and we'll be taking this up later during our deliberations. All right, so close on 131 Ruane Street. Next item for business is number 2, 100 Castle Avenue, map 79, parcel 201, petition of Yada Development LLC for a variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.2, to increase the number of stories from 2.5, proposing 3.5, section 5.2.5, to increase the lot coverage and total floor area from 30% and 50%, proposing 32.2% and 84.1%. Permission to legitimize a construction area to a 4-family dwelling built in 2004, premises C zone. And is the architect, Mr. Jones, are you presenting this?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Jones. And but wait 1 second. There was a recent, just so you know, and I want to bring this up before you start. There was something that was just submitted. I think the person might be also speaking today But there was a document that was submitted by Olga Levitt opposing the application. I assume you received that, sir?
No, I did not.
Okay, well,
It's in his email, Mr. Chairman. I sent it over about 5 minutes ago.
it was in your email. So what am I suggest, because it was kind of late, but I saw the person also on our call. So I think I assume that they'll be speaking as well. But I'll give you some time to check your email if you need to address it. But since the person is on here, I assume that they'll be commenting as well. So you'll hear it in real time. It's a short email, but it is someone in the neighborhood that's objecting to it and indicating basically that they're objecting. But I want you to take that up. I want you to present your application, and then we will take up any opposition at the end, after any questions, after anyone else has spoken in favor, and if there's anyone else that opposes it at that time. Okay, Mr. Jones?
Yes.
All right. So you can start whenever you're ready, sir.
Okay, I just found that email, but let me make my presentation. We'll kind of go from there. So as you know, this building at 100 Castle was built about 17 years ago. At that time, the architect was Dean Berman, Alden Berman. I was not the original project architect. Mr. Berman died about 6 years ago, and then the owners of the property, Yada Development, were doing a title search and realized at that point that there was no certificate of occupancy for the building. They hired me to handle the ZBA application. We had the property surveyed so that we could see what, if any, violations there were. And those 3 that are listed in our application were noted: the number of stories, the maximum building lot coverage as a percentage of the lot area, and the maximum floor area as a percentage of the lot area. This project, when it was built, we're not quite sure. The owners told me that they were believing that they had a certificate of occupancy. It's been occupied pretty much for these last 15 years or so, or 17 by now. And one of the concerns was that we couldn't find any drawings or the original documents from building or zoning so that we could see what was designed, what was permitted at that time. But right now, the zoning regulations do not. It's in violation of the current Fairfield zoning regulations. All 3 of those pretty much emanate from the topography of the land. And I don't know if I can share my screen. I will try. Can I share a picture on my screen, or will it just show the whole screen? Well, I will try.
Looks like you're sharing something. You're sharing what you have.
It's just sharing me everything that's it's not even sharing what's beside it. In any event, if you have seen the project, then you would be aware that it's on a hillside. Castle Avenue slopes so that all of the properties are uphill from the road. The first problem is that this property has a right-of-way for the property to the left of it. The property at the left is so high up the hill, there is no physical way they can enter their property from Castle Avenue. And so they have a right of access through the driveway that slopes up across our property into theirs. And that had to be maintained. So very likely there was some concern about building the garage, which this two-story building sits on top of. And if you've seen it, the garage itself is raised up on a foundation wall in order to keep the grade to the right and to keep the grade to the left. So they couldn't just sort of level it off when they built it. This has resulted in the problem with the number of stories when there is, according to the regulations now, when there's a garage under the building, it's considered a story. So instead of 2.5 stories, which would be permitted, they are essentially 3. It says 3.5, but there's nothing in the attic. There's no habitable attics. There's no stairs up there. But it still amounts to more than 2.5 stories. So we're asking for a variance for that. When you look at it, it looks like there's a first floor, but those windows are just to the garage. There's no habitable space under that building except for the garages. The second is coverage. The lot coverage of the building is about 2.2% higher than is permitted. And most of that, actually all of that, is from the thickness of the concrete wall, the foundation for that garage that ordinarily would have been on the ground, but it's built up and it had to be supported. And third, the total lot coverage, because now that garage is a full floor, we are, by calculation, way over the 50%. I think we're at 80% or close to it of the property. So all of this pretty much results from the existing topography of the land. There really is no way to change that topography without seriously impacting the neighbors, not only on each side, but also behind this property. And there's no way to shave 2% off the building. So we are seeking a variance because we really can't change the topography. That's the real hardship with this whole building.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jones. Can you remove your screen share?
Oh, I didn't know I was.
Stop screen share.
I'm looking for that option. There, no,
No, you're still on screen
there it
share.
is. Yep.
There, thank you. And that makes it much easier for me. I can see, when it's on screen share, I can only see a few people. And this way I can see everyone and I can know when one of the board members wants to ask a question. So now I'm going to open it up questions from the board on this application. Jane?
Hi. I don't envy you being in this situation. I'm glad you're not the original architect. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. Do you know if the building was compliant with the zoning regulations that were in place in 2003 or 2004 when this project was built?
That I don't know. We tried to find the original plans, but could not. So I don't know if it was in compliance when the building permit was issued.
But did you go back and look at the zoning regs from that time period and just take a look?
I asked the surveyor to do that.
Yeah.
But he didn't have any records to
Yeah.
go by, so he didn't do the.
Yeah, this is a tough. So I went back and looked. The only letter that I see that has come in that I can ask questions about, I assume there'll be other comments afterwards. There was a neighbor's concern about flooding. And I'm wondering if you considered any remedy for that?
This, I see it's in his letter about an issue with flooding
Right.
from the foundation of the building.
Yeah.
So this is the property to the right, downhill, I believe, of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And there are solutions. I'd have to have my civil engineer look at the drainage.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, when a building is downhill of another building, there is a solution. You can redirect the draining, whether it's with a structure or with a pipe or a swale,
Mm-hmm.
toward the street so that it doesn't run off into someone else's property, which I'm sure the owners would be willing to do now that we're aware that it's causing a problem.
So are you offering that as a condition?
If that'll get us approved, yes.
I'm getting looks from the chairman. I'm not sure if I could have asked that question or not, but we'll
Well,
see.
It needs to go through town engineering. We can't put a
Yes.
condition on that
Okay.
changes and has an issue that we have no. Our
Okay.
conditions
All
don't
right,
trump
I'll let
what
it
the
pass.
engineers
I'll
allow.
let that pass. Okay, those are all my questions. Thank you.
Katie, go ahead.
I'm trying to understand the ownership and when this was built, because when I'm looking at vision appraisal of town records, it's saying the current owner bought it in 2005, and then structure was built in 2006. So they actually did build this structure with an architect. Is that the case? How did they get a building permit if they needed variances?
We did a diligent search to find that out. The building department has no record of the plans or any of the approvals that went with it. We checked with zoning to see if they had a record of something so that we could compare what was built versus what was approved, but we don't have any records of it.
There's
And
no
the
record of a
architect,
permit?
there's a record that a permit was pulled, but there are no drawings that went with it, so we could determine what happened. back
Chairman, do you
then.
mind if I interject?
Go ahead, Mr. Decker.
But that's incorrect. We have, yes, a permit. We also have a survey from 2005 that I have sitting right in front of me. So if anybody did any search, they didn't speak to me. Otherwise, you would have gotten a copy. So I just wanted to let you know that there was information on file and a permit was issued and granted and actually signed off by me on October 24th of 2005.
So then at that time, there were no variances necessary. Is that accurate?
That is correct, yes.
So, so, so did they need variances if there were none needed when the home was built?
No. The permit was issued for a 4-unit dwelling, 3-story tall. Our regulations allowed a 3-story structure in all districts at that time. We modified our regulations to reduce certain zones in town to be 2.5-story, and this was one of the zones that was modified. I believe that was in 2000. Zones A, B, and C were reduced from 3-story to 2.5-story. So at the time, this was granted to be a 3-story structure. Permit was issued.
Is it a 3-story? And it is a 3, even though the garage is underneath it, it's still a 3-story?
I don't have the drawings. The only thing I have is a survey. And my understanding is we calculate the basement and or garage that is technically below grade counts as a story when it is when the math differential is the average grade minus the underside of the first floor, if that is greater than 5 feet, the garage or basement becomes a story. And I believe that's what happened here, which is why they have 4 stories instead of 3.
Okay. They didn't need a variance, but what they built was not what they got a permit for.
Correct.
And they never got a CO, so there was never any final inspection.
Correct.
Helps. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, go ahead, Jane.
I'm just looking at the survey. The as-built, according to the survey, says 3 stories. So that's incorrect?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is the surveyor around still?
Yeah, it's the original one. Yeah, he's still around too. The original and the current one are both still around.
My other question is, what if we were to deny the variance, would they have to shave the 3rd floor off?
The question for your chairman.
That's
Chairman?
that's a question for discussion, not necessarily for
Okay.
the public hearing.
That's it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Hearing no other questions, I'm going to open this up now to anyone that wants to speak to this application, whether you're in favor or against it. Please give me your name and your position.
Hi, my name is Trisha Pitko. I live at 114 Castle Avenue. I am the owner that shares the driveway with this
All
4
right.
residencies.
And Ms. Pitko, what's your position? Favor or
I
against?
oppose. I'm against.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? There was the email from Lois Thomas Levitt. Is there going to be comment or just listening in? If you're talking, I need you to unmute.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, I'm Olga Stavros-Levitt. I'm the owner of 8486 Castle Avenue
Yeah.
since 2014.
Hold on, hold on,
The
hold on.
problem,
Stop. I just want to know if you wanted to speak right now.
yes,
Okay, all right. And you're
Oh,
opposed,
thank you.
obviously.
okay.
All right.
I
gotta first-
cannot hear you
gotta
very well.
first see if there's anyone else. Anyone else that wishes to comment? Okay. No one else. Is Levitt? I will take you second. You came up second. I'll take Ms. Pitko first. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Uh,
board members. Oh, I'm sorry, Miss.
Ms. Pitko's going first, so why don't you just put on mute, Ms. Levitt, Olga, for a moment while Ms. Pitko speaks, and then we'll take you up next, okay? Go ahead, Trish.
Thank you. I have been the owner of 114 for the last 9 years, but I have lived here for 35 years. My mother owned the house prior to me. And I can tell you, I've been here since they built the condos. They definitely knew what they were building when they built it. They had a number of issues, including tapping into water, which still floods. Their property manager has lived here the entire time the condos have been here. And so he's well aware of the flooding that happened in the driveway. I did do my research by contacting zoning. When I received the letter from the architect, frankly, it was so small and illegible, I just contacted zoning. And I was very confused by what exactly they were asking for. Why, after 17 years, were they asking for a variance? Were they proposing to build? Based on what I got in the mail from zoning. So I did a little research into the structure and the original, what they had surveyed, what they had put up. My biggest issue is that there was a single family ranch house that was here, and they built this large structure here knowing they would need a variance, not only from myself, but from Mrs. Levitt and the two property owners behind us, behind the condo association. And I do share the driveway with them, and I can tell you that they do not have enough parking. 4 of their residents park in the street. And it's a constant issue on this hill. I have also filed a letter with the fire marshal to do a drill to make sure that not only can they get the fire truck up here, but any apparatus, now that there are more cars up on this hill. And so they have assured me that they are going to do that drill. My concern is not only for 114 where I live, but it's to neighbors to the right of me at 128 who had difficulty getting an emergency vehicle up here when they had a recent emergency. Really could go on, but if any of you have driven past there, it takes up almost the entire property. And this isn't the only condo association they own on the street. So I find it very hard to believe they didn't know they needed a variance when they built it.
Thank you, Ms. Pitko. Ms. Levitt? Go ahead.
Yes, hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Can I speak? Okay, I don't know if you received my comment that I emailed in, and right, it's regarding the runoff in heavy rains of the Castle Avenue property onto the backyard of 8486 Castle Avenue. That's my property, which runs into the foundation and then floods the crawl space. That's a chronic problem, and before I accept any variance, or you should accept any variances to correct the problem, I think this shouldn't be very difficult to correct this. To have the water redirected, or maybe underground drains that will take the water to the street, to the proper drainage.
Okay.
That's my concern.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Levitt. Okay.
I guess. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Jones,
You're welcome.
Yes.
I'm going to give you the opportunity to comment on the people that are opposed. But it would be my suggestion as chairman that you first ask my permission to continue your matter, to come up with some solutions that address these two oppositions, okay, and address some of the questions about the original plan and permit and how some changes might be able to be made to either the building themselves to try to come into more compliance and also to address some of the concerns of the adjoining neighbors, because it's quite frankly, it's very troubling that there was a survey, and I know you have nothing to do with it, but if there can be a workable solution that makes everyone, at least somewhat satisfied, I think that would be in the best interest of your client, the owner, the neighbors, and the town overall. So that's my suggestion, but that's just a suggestion from me. You can take that suggestion, or you can make your comments, and we will reconvene and pick this up and discuss it during voting.
Well, you made my comment. I was going to say that now that there is the original survey and permit available, I would very much like to see what was approved for the building permit and what was actually built. I also have a concern about the 4-story building. I understand how it's 3. It seems that it has now become a 4-story building, and I'd like some time to investigate that calculation as well. So I would request that this matter be continued to your next meeting so that I can resolve some of these issues.
I think that's a good request. And I would also ask that anything that you do propose, make sure that a copy of that goes to Ms. Pitko and Ms. Levitt as well. As to, because you might be adding some additional documents in support of your application. Suggestions, you might even be proposing some conditions as to certain things that, that you would have your client agree to as a condition. But, and also be in communication, obviously, with Mr. Decker from the town and the rest of the town people. But anything that you want to submit addition, make sure you provide a copy. Definitely, I would suggest to all neighbors, but clearly to Ms. Pitko and Ms. Levitt. Okay?
Yep.
All right, I will allow the matter. So this is going to be continued. We have the comments of the people that are interested in it. So when we do continue it, I will ask the same board to be sitting. So Harold, I'll ask you to come back when it's going to go forward, at least for this matter, just so we don't have to repeat. Just so, I mean, Ms. Pitko, Ms. Levitt may want to come to join it, but just so they know that it's going to be the same board that has heard their comments when it does reconvene. So it'll be up to them. I'll allow them to comment on any additions as well. Not going to prevent them from commenting when it does come back up, but I think that's a good idea to continue that, so you have time to do those things. Okay, so number 2 is going to be continued, and we'll pick that up and hopefully have some additional information to consider. So, board, make sure you keep the documents on that for when it comes back. And we're going to move on to number 3. And for this, Jane has recused herself, and Lisa's going to be sitting in. Number 3, 87 Catherine Street, map 182, parcel 659, petition of Alejandro and Andronica Alba for a variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the street line setback from 20 feet, currently 16.4 feet, proposing 18.9 feet. Permission to enclose part of an open porch with a 1-story addition, premises B zone. I believe the owners are presenting this.
Yes, hi.
Go ahead whenever you're ready.
So yeah, we are, our porch is currently, it's a covered porch. So we just want to take a portion of that porch, of the porch where our front door is, and enclose it. So, because right now we're just, the door just opens right from outside, right into our living room. So we're hoping to enclose a portion of that porch and move the door to the inside of the porch. That's pretty much the extent of the project.
Okay. And you're Annie or Andronica?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. And you do live at 87 Catherine Street?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Does the board have any questions for Ms. Alba? Go ahead, Elise, unmute.
So I have a question about the existing porch.
Yeah.
That is 16.4 feet from the street. Did you need a variance to build that porch, or did you purchase the house with the porch?
We just bought the house in October. When did we purchase it? September. So I don't know if they needed a variance to do the porch. The porch has been there even before the previous owners. So
Okay.
I'm not sure.
All right, thank you.
Elise, just to explain also on it, the current, we look for the variance as to the new structure. So that's why there's a difference. That's why you have the 16.4 for that. It goes to the steps, and then but the proposed addition is actually the 18.9. So that's the variance is for the new structure, the new piece that's going in.
But isn't that, it's already part of the porch, the existing porch?
It's not enclosed, it's covered.
Right, they're enclosing what's existing
Yeah.
there.
So they're enclosing something, so that's.
Yeah, we're not adding anything. We're just closing it off.
Are the stairs not included in the setback that you need to calculate?
Not for the new structure.
It's not. Oh, because they're gone. I see. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
they were already there. Yeah, they were
Yeah.
already there.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? All right, is there anyone that wishes to speak to this application, 87 Catherine Street, either for or against? Give me your name and your position. All right. Hearing none, no comments against. So I'm going to close the hearing on 87 Catherine Street. Ms. Alba will be taking it up later when we deliberate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is number 4201 Old Mill Road, map 179, parcel 284, petition of Mary Ellen and Mark Casey for a variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.5, to increase lot coverage from 15%, currently 19.1%, proposing 20.7%, permission to construct a rear addition premises R2 zone. And I thought I saw Mr. Casey or one of the Caseys on this.
Yes, both of us. We're both here.
All right.
Can
we
you
don't
hear
have-
me?
We can hear you. We don't have a video, but go ahead.
Oh, you don't have a video? Oh, let me
That's
see.
okay now. Well, we can go with me then. How about,
There you go. I know you're
So,
both,
I
but
think-
one of you can talk at a time, okay?
Oh, okay. Can you see me?
Yes,
just you.
Can you see Mary Ellen?
I can see Mary Ellen.
Okay, good. So I'm not quite sure. I've never done this before, so I'm not quite sure where you want me to begin.
Tell us what you want to do and why you think we should allow you to. In your own words.
Okay. So we purchased the house in July, and we want to add a bedroom to the first floor, which does not have a bedroom right now. And we also want to add a bathroom, a full bathroom. And in order to do that, we need to have more space. So we want to bump out the existing room in the back of the house 9 feet. Also, right above that, we have a proposal to enlarge a bedroom upstairs, also by 9 feet out. So with a bedroom on the first floor, that allows for, as we get older, for us to be on the first floor. And adjacent to the bedroom is a very small kitchen that hasn't been updated in a long, long time. And we want to bump out that kitchen by 5 feet.
Emphasize that it's in the back of the house and does not change the character of the front of the house.
You know, we can hear Mark talking, so why doesn't he just also give his name and
Okay.
and six?
Okay. Well, go ahead and say what you just said, Mark. He's hard of hearing, but you're not hard of hearing.
No, I'm not.
The bump outs that Mary Ellen just described are in the back of the house. So none of this expansion of the house will affect the front of the house or the appearance of the house on Old Mill Road.
Okay. All right, and I see the neighbors have signed off on it as well. Okay, are you done, Mr. and Mrs. Casey?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Does the board have any questions for the Caseys? Go ahead, Jane.
Hi. I'm looking at the floor plan, and typically new walls are shaded in. And I see that there's a portion of the wall between your residence and the residence that's on Sycamore that's shaded in. Is there currently a connection between the
There's an
two?
apartment. There's a legal apartment attached to the main house. Is
Right.
that what you're
Yeah,
talking
so
about?
so currently you can there's a door connecting it?
There's
Doorway?
there's a little hallway. There's
So
a little hallway. with two doors, actually. Yeah, there's a door on one side of the hallway, and then there's a little mudroom, and then there's another door into the main house.
So as part of your construction plans, are you renovating the kitchen in the apartment as well? Because,
Yes.
okay. But it's a separate residence. It's not part of your main house now at all?
No.
Okay.
It was built as a, in the early 1990s, it was built as an in-law apartment.
Okay, so it's a legal. It is.
Accessory. Yeah.
So,
Yes.
okay, well, okay. And can you just state what your hardship is, please? And before you do, I just want to remind you that a hardship has to be tied to the property, not to your family situation.
Oh.
What was the question?
She said, please explain the hardship.
Yeah,
And the hardship needs to be related to the property and not to our family situation.
Well, the kitchen is a kitchen from 1940. And so it is about the size of two closets. And it really doesn't meet any of the expected needs of a family in the 2000s.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? All right. No other questions? Okay, is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor or against this application, which is 201 Old Mill Road? And just give me your name and your position, whether you're in favor or against it. All right. Having no comments, I'm going to close the hearing now on 201 Old Mill Road. Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Casey. We'll be taking that up at the end of our public hearing, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is number 541 Old Elm Road, map 26, parcel 280, petition of Vera L. and Vansler Candini for a variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.4 to reduce the street line setback for an open porch from 30 feet, currently 17.8 feet, proposing 17 feet, and section 5.2.5 to increase lot coverage from 15%, currently 17.82%, proposing 18.79%. Permission to remove and reconstruct an open front porch, premises R3 zone. And who's presenting this?
Hi, I'm Veronica.
Okay, Veronica, go ahead. Give me your full name and address, and then tell us what you'd like to do.
Sure. I'm Veronica Oliveira de Souza. I'm here in the name of Vera and Vansler Candini from 41 Old Elm Road. So we are requesting to demolish and rebuild a covered front porch of 118 square feet. For this project, we are requesting to waive the lot coverage of 15% required to 17.82% proposed, and the front setback currently 17.8 to 17. The hardship in support of this application is that the house was built in 1941 as a capo style, and the lot area is currently 8 square feet, where 20 is required. Moreover, the minimum square on lot is 67 existing, where 100 is required. With this limitation, the house is considered non-conform with the currently code. That's why you are not allowed to build the front porch. That's all.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for Ms. D'Souza? Okay. Having no questions, is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to this application, 41 Old Elm Road? Okay, hearing No one way or the other. I'm going to close the hearing now on 41 Old El Road. Mr. Souza will be taking that up at the end of the hearing. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Our next item is number 6, which is 360 South Benson Road, map 139, parcel 418. Petition of Cornell and Lisa Steger for a variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce a street line and some of 2 sideline setbacks from 30 feet and 25 feet, currently 24.1 and 27.5 feet, proposing 24.1 and 20.3 feet, and section 5.2.5 to increase lot coverage from 20%, currently 18.4%, proposing 21.7%, permission to construct additions and front porch with stairs, premises A zone. I believe I saw Mr. Steger. Yes, you're going to present?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Thank you, everyone, for your time. So we are on South Benson Road, and where we live, our driveway and garage is below grade. And in the past 3.5 years since we've owned the property, we've had a couple instances where the storm drains on South Benson get backed up with the volume of rain, and it becomes a funnel down into our driveway and into our basement. And what we've been, trying to figure out is if we close up the garage and put the garage then on grade level and take off that den and office and laundry room that's on the side of our house and relocate that to above the garage, so that we can kind of have mitigate any additional flooding that comes into our basement.
And all right, does the board have any questions, Mr. Steger? Yes, Jane, go ahead.
Hi, I'm looking at the site plan, and maybe this just is an oversight, but it doesn't look like the driveway is moving over for the new garage. Is that
okay?
Something
it would line up. It would basically just be, right now it goes down and it'd just be to the side of where it currently is.
Yeah. And then what will you do with the garage that's currently there?
Well, we would fill it up with concrete, the wall there, and then backfill it so it's all level. So it's just going to be grass.
Okay.
And maybe a slight walkway. I guess the walkway would kind of come over to the driveway then.
Okay, thank you.
Oh yeah, Harold, go ahead. Sorry, I was looking down.
Thank you. This is Harold Sawatsky. It appears that you plan to move driveway or expand the driveway's width. And I'm wondering if by relocating the driveway or expanding the driveway, does that interfere with the side setback of the property?
That is in the calculations. I mean, the driveway is straight, so the addition is the setback line. So the driveway would be straight out from that setback. If I'm understanding what your question was, Harold.
Yes. Thank you.
The driveway wouldn't interfere. What isn't part of the setback? It's a structure.
So it doesn't interfere. Thank you.
No. Any other questions? All right, hearing no other questions. Does anyone wish to speak in favor or against this application? It's 360 South Benson Road. Give me your name and give me your position. Okay, hearing no comments. I'm going to close the hearing now on 360 South Benson Road. Thank you, sir, and we'll be taking that up at the end of the hearing. Our next item, that might be, thanks, it might be yours, John.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I was getting some reverberation. I could see it was coming through yours. So,
is it okay now?
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so now we're going to take up number 7, 29 Merton Street, map 179, parcel 232, petition of Jonathan DeFeo for variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the sum of 2 sideline setbacks from 20 feet, currently 23.3 feet, proposing 21.3 feet, and section 5.2.5 to increase the lot coverage from 20%, currently 19.8%, proposing 21%, permission to construct a two-story addition, premises A zone. And Attorney Fallon, this is you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is John Fallon. I'm here representing John DeFeo and his mother. They are in the meeting. First of all, thank you very much for your time, and we wish you a happy new year. John owns the property at 29 Merton Street. He resides there with his elderly mom, who unfortunately has a history of hip, back, and knee issues. What we ask for here are the variances referenced and that I will refer to in a minute in order to accommodate the construction of a small two-story addition as shown on the plans we submitted. The first floor addition, as you can see from the floor plan, will consist of a small mudroom and an access to the dwelling. This will allow easier and, most importantly, safer access to their home, especially for Mrs. DeFeo. The entry will be completely covered and protected from the elements, thereby providing unencumbered access to her and to other people during all periods, especially that will be beneficial during the winter months and other times of inclement weather. The additional first floor area, you'll also see if you look at the small plan, the floor plan will provide a small area for storage, the accessibility to which will be highly preferable than the current unfinished basement, again, especially for Mrs. DeFeo. The second floor addition will accommodate a laundry room. The laundry room area is currently located on the first floor, which of course requires utilization of the stairs, and its relocation to the second floor will again benefit Mrs. DeFeo as a matter of convenience and safety. The second floor addition will also accommodate, as you can see, a small enlargement of the existing bath to make it more accessible. As to the property, it's located in a Residence A zone. It is a pre-existing and legally protected lot with regard to its shape, having a lot square of only 60 feet, wherein the zone requires 75 feet. With regard to the specific variances, the present sum of the setbacks from the property lines is non-conforming at 23.3 feet. To accommodate this addition, we're asking you to reduce that by 2 feet to 21.3 feet. Similarly, we ask for a small coverage variance, increasing coverage by 1.2%. The statute here is 8-683, as you all know, and you have to make two findings. You have to determine first that what is being proposed will not substantially affect the comprehensive zoning plan, and that what we are proposing is supported by a finding of hardship with regard to the property that justifies the granting of the variance. With regard to the first aspect of the test, I cite in my material the Egan case. The Egan case holds that if the use to be allowed by a variance is consistent with other uses in the area and/or is a permitted use in the zone, the first part of the test is met. Obviously, we're not going to change the use of the property. This is a very small addition of some 200 and some square feet. The property will remain, as it's been for many years, a single-family residence, and there'll be no changes. We're not asking for any other variances with respect to the application other than those noted in Schedule A. And indeed, I'd want to point out to the board that after this small addition is construction, the floor area ratio will be only 32.1%, well under the 40% that's allowed in the zone. The proposed addition, as designed by John Sleva of Sleva Design and Build, is very attractive. A great deal of time and care was taken to make sure that it would harmonize with the existing structure and the character of the neighborhood, and is going to have an aesthetic enhancement to the property. I did introduce, through Mr. Decker, submitted a petition signed by generally all the abutting neighbors. You did receive a letter from Mr. and Mrs. Skimeka. They have been longtime neighbors of the DeFeos, have been good neighbors to the DeFeos, and the DeFeos in turn have been, we hope and believe, good neighbors to them. Indeed, they met, Mr. DeFeo and his mother met with the Skimekas prior to the time that the application was filed. At the time, they were told that they weren't opposed to the application, but because the property was apparently in an estate or something like that, they did not want to sign the petition. When they saw the letter that was submitted a few days ago, just yesterday, or I think the day before, they again went and knocked on the Semecka's door to sit down with them and again review the plans that they proposed for this small addition. They can certainly speak for themselves, but we hope, and the DeFeos, Mr. DeFeo and his mom certainly hope that they put them at ease with regard to the proposal we make. And that was certainly the intention of the DeFeos when they went to visit them again this week. With regard to their letter, without belaboring it, I would point out there's a statement in there that the proposal is excessive. The existing house here is 2,340 square feet. After the addition, it will be 2,577 square feet. So this addition constitutes 237 square feet. So I don't think it's really true to say that it's excessive. The other thing that they point out in their letter is that there might be some negative impact with regard to, and I quote, the traditional appearance of the historic Riverhurst community. Again, you folks in your diligence have probably been out to the property. And one of the things that Mr. DeFeo and Mr. Sleva were very, very anxious to accomplish as they designed this was something that would actually be more enhancing to the historical characteristics of the neighborhood and the existing structure. And I would respectfully submit that they've done that. The last thing that was pointed out in their letter is that this is for selfish gain. I can assure you, I've known John DeFeo since he was about 8 years old. There's no financial gain involved in this. Indeed, the cost of doing this, it far exceeds any benefit in terms of the value of the property. He's doing this for his mother, and it's as simple as that. So that I would hope, as I said, that we've addressed some of the issues or whatever the concerns that the Semeckas have. But in any event, I think the application, standing on its own feet, deserves your approval and attention. The reason for that are that in addition to satisfying the first part of the statutory test with regard to no adverse impact on the comprehensive plan, you do have two very well recognized Hornbook, if you will, findings of hardship. First, as it relates to the sum of the side property line setbacks, obviously the controlling legal issue here is that the lot is a valid and legally protected non-conforming lot as it relates to the lot shape requirements having a square of only 60 feet. The cases that I cite in my material provide that provides a proper basis for the granting of the setback variances. The second is that there are cases, again, which I cite in my material, that says that the historic location of a legally protected pre-existing structure is another proper basis for a granting of a variance. And that's the case here. This house has been built many, many, many decades ago, and it is non-conforming to the current setback requirements. That is what occasions the need for the small 2-foot setback variance that we seek with regard to the sum of the setbacks. So in summary, the DeFeo seek approval of the variances that we've requested in order to accommodate a modest addition to their home where John and his mom reside. That's going to provide safer access to the home, especially during time of inclement weather, a small area for additional storage, and a second floor laundry room and a small bath extension. The legal standards pursuant to 8-6, I think, are well met in that the variance will not have any negative impact with regard to the comprehensive plan. Indeed, as I said, I think the small addition will have a very nice aesthetic house with regard to the existing house. And based upon the fact that the lot is a pre-existing non-conforming lot, there's a hardship basis for granting the variance, as is the fact that the house itself is already non-conforming and historically protected as a pre-existing use. So I'd be pleased to answer any questions that you might have. And we hope you would favorably consider the application. And I thank you very much for your time and attention and patience.
Thank you, Attorney Fallon. Do you have any questions for Attorney Fallon? All right, no questions. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to this? Please give me your name and give your position.
Hello, This is Carol Semeka speaking. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, are you in favor or opposition? We have the email that you sent.
Opposing it. I am opposing it, and I'm going to tell you why. We live in a
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
beautiful,
whoa, whoa, whoa,
historic.
whoa, hold it. I first find out, you might not be the only person that wants to talk about this. So I first find out, and I said early on, give me your name and I'll take you in order. So definitely you'll be first. You raised your hand first. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to this application, either in favor or against? Okay, no one else? Ms. Skimdeka, go ahead.
Okay, my opposition to this is we live in a beautiful neighborhood, a historic neighborhood where the Sturgis cottages and everything else. I moved here specifically after having lived, being a homeowner on South Benson Road. And I know what people do. There's house flippers, there's all kinds of things. And yes, you know, I realize that he lives there with his mother, who is a senior citizen. She's not that elderly. She's around my age, and she's very able-bodied. So much so that she went around to the whole neighborhood and got signatures for herself to have the variance administered. But I went to my neighbor, who I've been friendly with through the years, and I asked her, and she was very, very nervous. And she didn't, you know, want to give me too much information, but she said that Jonathan had spoken to her husband and he had signed it. And so I assumed that young Mr. DeFeo had gone to all of the younger families, and there's a lot of younger families, and it's a wonderful neighborhood. We're all friendly here, you know, with each other, and we respect each other's privacy. And I had assumed he had sent his elderly mother, who was my age, to my house, one old woman to another. And so it turns out that this a seemingly disabled woman that needs a laundry room on the first floor walked the whole neighborhood to get variances signed to make some kind of an adjustment to an absolutely beautiful home in a beautiful neighborhood that is already 2,500 square feet. They're over their lot alignment, and I don't think that they should have the opportunity to expand the house because it's already big and ruin the neighborhood.
All right, thank you, Ms. Skimdeka. Did your husband have anything to say, or were you taking the lead?
Well, I took the lead for this, but I'll let him speak for himself.
We can't hear you, sir.
About the neighborhood going forward and keep the neighborhood.
I really can't. Sir, I haven't really heard anything. I heard your wife very easily.
Let me try to get in front of the microphone.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Now, I concur with my wife, Carol. I think it's a beautiful neighborhood. I think they have a very large home. And I don't know why they can't accommodate what they need to do with the existing space of the very large home they have. I just plain don't understand it. I don't see the need for the expansion. But again, that's my personal opinion.
All right. Thank you, sir. Just to make sure.
Sorry, but I would like to state one more thing. If they keep letting people destroy these neighborhoods with addition after addition, and while this is not a large addition, it's happening all over town. And on top of that, at some point, these people, who's to say they're not flippers? I mean, he's a young man, Mr. DeFeo, and he might want to move on at some point. And it leaves this house open to bringing in a third world country to live in a private community. And I have to oppose it for those reasons alone. I'm sure you know in the beach area that a lot of people have sublet and taken in borders and every other thing in a residential area. And and that's one of my fears with letting all these variances go through in historic, beautiful Fairfield. I don't want it to become the boarding houses of Bridgeport.
Okay. That was a little off the point on zoning regs for town of Fairfield. But we accept the comments, and I'll ask Mr. Fallon to address those, but let me just make sure there's no one else that wishes to comment on this application. Anyone else? This is 29 Merton Street. Okay. All right. Mr. Fallon, I'll give you an opportunity to address. I know you started to address the letter. If you want to address these comments by the Skimeckas, please do so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've already addressed the letter. I mean, I guess I'd start by saying I'm sorry to hear that the Skimeckas are so emotional about this. We have been and will continue to be good neighbors to them, and we assume they to us as well. And starting from that respectful standpoint, I would have to say that I think the comments are bizarre, and for the following reasons. First of all, let me also address that at great exertion to herself, Mrs. DeFeo did go to her neighbors, including the Skimeckas. And that has nothing to do, nor does that in any way abrogate the fact that he is suffering from significant disabilities. And the only motivation for this 237 square foot addition is to accommodate the needs of his mother. John DeFeo is not a, quote, house flipper. And if he was a house flipper, he could find a much better way to spend his money in order to maximize the value of a piece of property. This has nothing to do with that. This simply has to do with accommodating the needs of his mom. If the comments, the bizarre comments are that somehow this 234 square foot addition, carefully architecturally designed by a professional architect, is going to destroy the neighborhood and somehow turn us into something other than what this beautiful neighborhood is. In fact, as I said at the outset, the original approach here to this design by Mr. Sleva and with Mr. and Mrs. DeFeo's input was to ensure, and I think the plan speaks for itself, that the design would be modest, tasteful, and would actually accentuate the historic neighborhood that this property lives in and it resides in, and that this house is part of. So I really don't know much more to say about that. I would hazard to hope and guess that if you should be good enough to approve this application, at the end of the day, the Skimeckas will see that it has no adverse impact upon this neighborhood. In fact, it's going to be an enhancement to the property and to the neighborhood in general. And underlying it all is we're not basing this on the sympathy or any factors like that. They are contextual in terms of Mrs. DeFeo's condition, but we're basing it on satisfying the statutory requirement that allows you the authority to grant variances when you see fit to do so. And that is 8-6. And we satisfy that because there will be no adverse impact to the comprehensive plan. And in fact, there is hardship basis, as the case law, which I cite in my material, establish, based upon the pre-existing non-conforming nature of the lot and the pre-existing legally protected location of the existing house. So we will all and continue to be good neighbors, but I just do not believe respectfully that the Skimeckas' comments or concerns or opposition is well-founded legally or practically, and we hope you will grant the application. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Attorney Fallon. Going to close the hearing now on 29 Merton Street. And we'll be taking this up after completion of the public hearing. So 29 Merton Street is now closed. Our next item and last item is 107 Newton Street, map 139, parcel 280, petition of TJK Builders LLC for variance of the zoning regulations section 5.2.4 to reduce two street line setbacks from 30 feet and 22 feet and 12 feet for an open front porch, currently 18.7 feet and 17.4 feet, proposing 18.7 feet, 15.9 and 6.4 feet to the open stairs, and section 5.2.5 to increase lot coverage and total floor area from 20% and 40%, currently 15.7% and 27.1%, proposing 30% and 61.5%, permission to construct a two-floor addition with attic and make the home FEMA compliant, premises A zone. I think we had a representative, Aaron. Yes, you're presenting this. Go ahead. Give us your
Yeah.
name.
Hi, my name's Erin Delati. I currently live across the street with my family at 88 Newton Street. Um, we've lived here for 12 years and we have outgrown our home with 3 kids. But we live in the neighborhood and want to stay in the neighborhood with all of our neighbors. So we're, you know, we've worked with Tom Kane and his architect, TJK Builders, to design a home that would work for our family. This home has been abandoned and even when lived in a little bit troubled in our neighborhood for many years. So I have the support of all of our neighbors that I've submitted that are very pleased to have us stay in the neighborhood and move across the street and finally make the house a good neighbor for everyone around us. Our hardship is that it's a legal non-conforming lot compounded by having 2 street lines. It's a corner lot. We are not substantially affecting the comprehensive zoning plan as the property will remain a single family residence. And our big concern, because we've been in this neighborhood and care about our neighbors, and in speaking to them, is that we want to make sure it still fits within the neighborhood. So while we are looking to, you know, build a bigger house than our existing house across the street. The concern that we heard from our neighbors, and we know this from living here too, is that they didn't want the house to be lifted because that would tower above all the other neighbors. So, you know, our plan is to make the house FEMA compliant by building in the basement and bringing it up to code. But in doing that, the floor area that we're asking for is 61.5%, which I recognize is a larger number. But that's because the garage is being counted in that floor area because it's all on one level. It's my understanding that if we were to lift the house and put the garage underneath, you know, and structure it the way other homes in the beach area have done that are closer to the water, then our floor area would only be 50.3%, which is much more in line with other houses that have been approved in our neighborhood. 451 Riverside was approved for 48.4%. So that we're trying to make it still fit within the neighborhood while meet our family needs. So I guess that's all I have to say about it.
All right. Does the board have any questions for Ms. Delati? Okay, hearing no questions. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to this application either in favor or against it? Please give me your name and tell me your position. All right, no comments one way or the other. I'm going to close the hearing now on 107 Newton Street. Okay, so we'll be taking that up shortly. Our next item that was listed on our agenda is number 9, 1088 Harbor Road. That has been continued to February, so we'll be taking that up. Before we reconvene, I know we've been going for an hour and a half almost. Does the board need any quick break before we reconvene our working session? Does anyone need a break? Raise your hand. No problems. Okay, all right. So a public hearing is now closed and I'm opening back up our working session to take the matters up. I take them up in order. I will be repeating a couple things, obviously, for the record that are being withdrawn or continued. So I'll start from the beginning. Continued docket 3280, 3300 Post Road has been withdrawn. Continued docket, next item, number 11, 599 Kings Highway West has been withdrawn. Continued docket number 7, 250 Pequot Avenue has been continued. General docket, our first matter which we have business on is 131 Ruane Street. Ms. Langlace presented this as the owner to construct a covered open front porch. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. Katie?
Second.
Second, Jane, thank you. Okay, let's have some discussion on Ruane Street.
I think it improves the streetscape and the additional square footage is next to nothing.
Yeah, 9,300 required, and they only had 7,700, so it
Yeah.
kind of speaks to lot coverage issue as to a hardship. So I go in the order that you're appearing for me. So I'm going to go in this order. I'm going to do Jane, Harold, Katie, Terry, then me. Okay? Sorry, Jane.
Okay. I don't mind.
You're a veteran, no issues. So Jane, what's your vote?
Yes.
Okay. Harold?
Yes, grant to approve.
Yeah. Okay. Katie? Terry?
Yes.
I say yes, that's been approved. Our next item is 100 Castle Avenue. We started that for Yada Development and it's been continued to come back with some more information. The next item that we have, number 3, 87 Catherine Street. At least you're sitting in on this. So you're going to be taking Jane's spot, voting first. So entertain a motion to approve 87 Catherine Street.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And thank you. That was Terry and then Elise. Thank you.
Yes.
Discussion?
Can I just, for my own edification?
Yeah.
My understanding is that they are building new stairs. We wouldn't consider that. They're removing the existing stairs where they're doing the enclosure.
I don't think they have stairs that are there, but we're
Right.
only getting the lot cover. What we're looking at here is this new structure in the setback. The stairs were already, it's pre-existing non-conforming.
Okay, but they're building new, the same non-conformities being moved to the center now.
Yeah.
That's the way it looks to me on these drawings. They're removing the stairs that are there currently and moving them over to more to the middle of the porch.
Yes.
We don't have to consider that since it's the same setback that
Yeah,
was
same.
originally non-conforming.
Yeah.
Okay, that I just, for my own information, thank you.
Yeah, it's, when they're putting a new bigger structure in that's raised up off the ground, then we're concerned with that main new structure, and the stairs aren't new. Even
Okay.
they're moved over, but they're within the same setback.
Okay, that's okay. I wanted to be clear that I was reading that whole design properly.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, bring it to a vote. Elise, you're first.
Yes.
Harold?
Yes to approve.
Okay. Katie?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
I say yes, that's been approved for the Albas. On number 4, 201 Old Mill Road for the Casey's, and they presented their applications to construct a rear addition. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Katie. Is there a second?
Jane seconds.
Thank you, Jane. All right, discussion.
Yes, Harold.
Go ahead, Harold.
This is Harold Zawatsky. I see from my notes that they are looking to increase the lot coverage from 19.4 to 20.4%. Is that correct?
To 20.7 from 19.1. It's over the 15 is the max. So they're going up over the 15 to 20.7.
But they're only increasing from what they currently have by 1.6, right?
Correct.
Yes, because the increase was already there when they purchased the property. Is that our understanding?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's also the
my
main
question is-
structure that affects the variance, the lot coverage. These are bump outs to the main house, not the apartment.
So my
Apartment
only
does have work
question
done, but-
is, thank you. My only question is, are the Is everyone satisfied that the setbacks are adequately recognized?
I can't hear you well. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, are the setbacks adequately recognized?
You don't need a variance in setbacks just for coverage, right?
Yes. The setbacks based upon what their application, what they want on their building permit are, there's no issues with the setbacks. The only issue that they have is as to the total lot coverage, the building envelope, compared to the lot size.
I'm not quite clear what the hardship is, because that's, does anybody else have an opinion?
I think a lot of times it's difficult when people are presenting for themselves, that an attorney to kind of pick out where there's a hardship. But just looking the town records on the street, they're in an R2 zone. There are many houses on the street that are R2, but there are also quite a few houses that are A zone. So I would think that would present a hardship, because if they happen to be A zone, like some of their neighbors are, they'd have 20% coverage, not 15.
Okay, thank you, because that clarifies things for me.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, Jane?
Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Terry?
Sorry, yes.
I say yes. The Caseys can do their addition. Approved. Number 5, 41 Old Elm Road, for the Candinis. Mr. Souza presented the application is to remove and reconstruct an open front porch. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Terry. Is there a second?
Jane seconds.
Thank you, Jane. All right, discussion.
But this is Harold.
Yeah, go ahead, Harold.
Has anyone driven by the property to see the condition of the front porch? Is it sustainable the way it is?
Well, I've driven by, but we are not there to evaluate the existing construction. What do you mean by sustainable?
Well, their application is to demolish and replace an existing porch. And I'm wondering if they mentioned as a hardship the fact that the porch needed to be replaced.
Mentioning as a hardship, their hardship, what she presented is that the square required is 100, and they're well below that. And the minimum R3 zone, you're supposed to have 20,000 square feet, and they have 8,000. And when you have stuff like that, obviously that affects everything. That affects your setbacks. That affects your lot coverage. But what I look to these applications, because there's a lot of lots like this in R3 that are small, are of the 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 maybe square foot, and they had this. I always looked at this. It's like, okay, when this was originally planned, they were able to probably do all of this stuff, but a lot of the R3 took over a lot of the neighborhoods and changed them. And I think that we probably have it here, but FAR is not being affected, which I kind of look at as an issue as to whether this is too big for the neighborhood or not. If the FAR is out of whack for an R3 neighborhood, and it's not here. So that's why I look at it, with R3. I live in R3, so I kind of know up with the neighborhood of R3. Lived in R3 for almost 30 years. So that's just my comments. Any other discussion?
I think the hardship is valid and reasonable.
Jane?
Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
I say yes. The Candini's application is approved. Next is 360 South Benson Road. Mr. Stager presented the application is to construct addition, front porch with stairs. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Terry. Second.
Jane seconds.
Thank you, Jane. Discussion?
The topography is clearly working against them.
Yeah, I don't think anyone wants one of those garages that goes underneath the house anymore.
Not on South Benson, no. This is Harold Zawatsky again. And they do have 3 letters of support from neighbors. So there doesn't seem to be any neighbor opposition.
Yeah, the area, yeah, Harold, that's another thing I look at in these types of things too, is when you have an addition that's bumping to one side or the other, you look to see how that neighbor talks about it when you're talking setbacks, you know, and the neighbors support it, and they'll probably have a nice big now front yard, which everyone else will like, with just a driveway instead of a big like slope in the middle of their middle of the front.
Thank you.
All right, bring it to a vote. Jane?
Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Katie? Terry?
Yes.
I say yes, that's been approved. Number 7 is 29 Merton Street. Petition of Mr. DeFeo, Attorney Fallon presented the application and is to construct 2-story addition. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Jane. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Katie's. All right, discussion, and remember we had opposition from the Schemecca that's on this as well.
It's 237 square feet, and it's not that big.
Okay.
And you know what? They're only, I mean, they're asking for 1% over coverage and 2 feet on the side.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and they're still way under FIR. It's not still going to be in keeping with the neighborhood.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the hardship has nothing to do with their family situation at all. The hardship is because of the limits of the property. It doesn't matter who's living in the house, whether they're the existing people or people from, I quote, third world countries. That's besides the point.
The point that was taken is the hardship. Thanks, Katie. And then the FAR, again, looking at stuff like this. What is the FAR? And when you're that far under the FAR,
right,
it's, you know, what they could do is they could take the thing down and go up and max out FAR and keep the lot coverage underneath it.
Right.
I think the Schemecca would be a little bit upset about that.
And do
This
all
is
of that
Harold.
without needing a variances, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Except that okay, but we're not talking about hypotheticals. We're talking about what's in front of us, and they do have a hardship that's tied to the property. So I say yes.
All right. You're talking like I talk sometimes, Jane.
This is Harold Zawatsky. In the letter of opposition, it was mentioned that they might turn the house into a 2-family dwelling, but in Mr. Fallon's statement, he clearly stated that it will retain a single-family dwelling. So I think that some of the comments that we heard in opposition were irrational and not pertinent to this situation.
They wouldn't be able to make it into a 2-family dwelling in that zone. So.
Right.
So, all right, Jane?
Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Harry?
Yes.
I say yes. That's granted. And number 8, or just, I know we like to sign off quickly. Number 9, 1088 Harbor Road was continued, but our last item for business is number 8, 107 Newton Street. Mr. Lottie presented the application. It's 2-story, second floor addition with attic and FEMA compliant. Entertain a motion to approve.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Terry moves. There a second?
Jane seconds.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, discussion?
Uh,
I know 61% scared you, Jane. I know that scared you.
Yeah, because it's half again as big as it should be. And I know that they made an argument that, you know, what if it was this, but we can only respond to what is presented in front of us, not what could have been or what was done down the street. So on this particular piece of property, the house or that's being presented is, in my opinion, half again too big. It's no, the FAR just kind of knocks it out of the running for me.
All right, any other discussion? Harold, go ahead.
This is Harold. Yes, given my experience of being on the zoning, Board of Appeals for the property taxes, this is currently a building that is occupied or unoccupied? Do we know? The property in question that is being appealed, is it occupied or not?
Unoccupied.
It's unoccupied.
So it's unoccupied, and these people are looking to rehabilitate the home and make it their primary dwelling. That's my understanding. So rather than have a unoccupied derelict building, it would seem to me some consideration should be made for the benefit of the neighborhood and for the benefit of the appellate to see what recommendations could be made to approve this appeal, or if, and again, being new to this board and the process, maybe we don't make recommendations. Maybe if it's denied, I assume that they have the right to come back with another plan and appeal again. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, bring it to a vote. Jane,
No.
Harold,
Yes.
Katie,
I hate to say no, but no.
Terry,
Yes.
I say yes, but our rules require that it is a supermajority. So they're gonna, you know, the application has been denied, but I think the applicant heard the comments that the floor area ratio is just is too big. The board obviously did hear the comments that they're indicating that, you know, the reason why they want it to be bigger, so maybe they can adjust some things and come back to us with something that is just not as big as being so far over the floor area ratio.
Mhm.
All right, so we're going to close the hearing. Again, Happy New Year to everyone. I hope things change. I hope to see everyone in person at zoning boards. It's a lot easier to run them that way, but we're kind of getting good at this, unfortunately, which I don't like. So have a good month, safe month, stay healthy, and we'll see you in February.
Bye.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year,
Happy New
everybody.
Year.
Happy New Year to all.